Boule. I hope your week has started out beautifully and that it will end just as beautifully. Today I have a topic that is controversial, but because my channel is small, growing but small, I think I can say this without getting in trouble or ruffling any feathers or making anybody mad. But I'm going to give my opinion on marriage, and I'm going to back it up with some other things, but my opinion is what I am operating from. And this has to do with African Americans and marriage. And I'm only talking about African Americans. And I'm going to boldly state that black men belong to black women. Now, the reason I didn't reverse it and say black women belong to black men is because black men marry out more than black women. But if black men belong to black women, then black women belong to black men. Even if you have 2 master's degrees, your own house and car, you still belong to black men. Well, nobody can tell me what to do. That is absolutely true. But when we are talking about trying to build our culture, we are in the beginning stages of building a civilization here. And we can't do this if we're all over the place with all these other groups of people who want to come in and weigh in on what they think. This has to be our project. We went through a tremendous experience together. We made it through. And now we are going to have to rebuild. And we can do that better with each other. That is my opinion. But my opinion is based in scripture, culture, and statistics. If we look at the tribal system in Africa, the tradition is that they marry within their tribe. When we look at the Bible, we find Abraham. Abraham is the father of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. God made a covenant with Abraham, promising him a son. When Abraham was 100 years old, that son was born. His name was Isaac. When Isaac came of age to be married, Abraham sent his servant back to his homeland to find a wife for Isaac. He did not want Isaac to marry the local Canaanite woman. He wanted him to marry someone from his tribe, his culture, and his lineage. Isaac had 2 sons, Esau and Jacob. Jacob ended up with the birthright. How he came about it is a different story, but he ended up with the birthright. When it was time for him to get married, Isaac sent him back to their homeland as well, again, to marry someone from their tribe, their culture, and their lineage. You marry within your own tribe when you want the continuity of family, wealth, culture, and when you're concerned about the well-being of future generations. Now let's look at a biblical character that went outside that system. Samson. Samson was a judge of Israel. He had been born to his parents late, but he had been blessed. He was especially consecrated for God. He was supposed to do something specific. There were 3 things that he was not supposed to do. He wasn't supposed to eat or drink from the vine or any unclean thing. He was not supposed to be contaminated by any unclean thing, and he was not supposed to cut his hair. His mother had been given strict directives about how to raise him and what he was supposed to do. Samson had a rebellious spirit. He was incredibly strong. The strength was in his hair, but he had to obey. He could not stay away from the very women that the Lord had told him to stay away from. He could not stay away from those Philistine women. So he finally got tied up with the wrong one. He fell in love with this beautiful Philistine woman named Delilah. And the Philistines had coerced her into finding out where his strength was. He got drunk. He wasn't supposed to be drinking anything from the vine. And he told her what the secret was. It was in his hair. His strength was in his hair. He went to sleep. She cut his hair. His strength is gone. The Philistines got a hold to him, gouged his eyes out. He's blind. They make a public spectacle of him. Now, he had been granted that strength in the first place to protect his people, to deliver his people. Now, he's weak and his people are in danger. And so then he had to come back and beg God to help him to deliver his people from those Philistines. Finally, God did grant him that strength back, and he was able to defeat them, but his own demise went down with it. So he went down himself. When in trying to destroy his enemies, he destroyed himself. But he had a disobedient spirit. He would not do what he was supposed to do, marrying out, and it brought him down, brought him to destruction. This story could be a metaphor for any rebellious person with a disobedient spirit. He had something specific that he needed to do, he was supposed to do. And by not being obedient, he was destroyed and could well have destroyed his people had not it been for the grace of God. Black men have something specific that they need to do, and that is to rebuild the African American civilization. These foreign women are a distraction, they are a disruption. They're a temptation, but they're a distraction. In chasing them, they're chasing a fantasy that ultimately leads to destruction. We are, I repeat, in the process of rebuilding ourselves as a strong people. We can't do that if our loyalties are divided and our money is going every which way. You have to guard your heart and your affections. Everybody should not have access to you. Your seed should not be spread all over creation. It should all be in one tribe. That's how you build strength, and that is how you gain power. When black men marry into these other races of people, their power is diluted. You don't have power with that other group. The men in that group have the power. Your influence is with black people. Your power is with black people. Black people are waiting to be led. Time is of the essence. This country is changing. Everybody is on a power grab. We're the second largest political group in this country, and that's major. What we lack is leadership from our men. Black men have to do this. They have to be committed to it. Women can do so much, but men are ordained to lead. They have the strength and the testosterone. That's what it takes to be a leader. A leader has to be a fighter. Now let's talk about culture. When you're dealing with someone outside of your culture, you have an immediate conflict because people respond differently based on their culture. Statistics show that culture clashing is one of the main things that wrecks an interracial marriage. You don't worship the same, you don't like the same music, you don't like the same foods, you don't have the same mannerisms. So after a while, you're forced to come to the realization that you're dealing with a stranger. No amount of sex, no skin tone, no hair type, nothing is going to rectify that. You are dealing with a stranger. And then you have to acknowledge that that stranger may not have your best interest at heart or the best interest of your people. And one of the touchy things about African Americans marrying into these other cultures is that the N word comes up more than people want to admit. And the fact that people don't think you're very intelligent because we have been marketed to the world as the dumbest and the laziest and whatever the superlative is that's negative. So those things factor into a marriage. You can be very accomplished in your field of expertise, and this person will tell you evidently that it's not a badge of honor for me to be with you. It's a badge of honor for you to be with me. And this person is a nobody, but they believe what they said. Lastly, here are some statistics. 41% of interracial marriages end in divorce. And we know that African American men and Caucasian women have the highest divorce rate. So I'm making the case that African American men belong to African American women for practical reasons. Number one, to build or rebuild us as a people. And number two, because we are each other's natural mates. And I will say that the hour is too late for us to be bickering back and forth in this so-called gender war about who's worse, black men or black women. These other groups of people are serious about grabbing power. They are united, they are getting legislation passed, and they are getting into the ears of politicians who can make things happen for them. We owe it to ourselves and to the ones that come after us to have something to show for our time. But, oh well, black men were so awful we couldn't get anything done. Or black women were wearing so much weave we couldn't get anything done. This is silly. We have to work together so that we can consolidate our power. And we do that together as black men and women. Black men must take their role as leaders of the black race. Now we have resources. We've got all of these churches, big, beautiful buildings that stay locked up all week. Why not say this church, this mega church is going to be over the school. That mega church is going to be over the hospital. That mega church is going to be over the bank. That mega church is going to be over the grocery store. It's just a matter of us taking charge of our resources and our communities. We have what we need. We just need to get it done. We are not going to reinvent the wheel here. This particular dispensation that we live in came with some specific laws and rules. And when you go against those laws and rules, you are really kicking against yourself. And that is not a successful strategy for living. Black men belong to black people, not just black women, but because you are designated the leaders of a race. You cannot lead black women and black children and other black men with another race of people. You just can't do it. You can't be a king if you don't have a kingdom. Your kingdom is with black people. And that is something that is not going to change in this dispensation, regardless of how much advertising and promotion and pushing these other people towards you. It is not going to succeed. What is succeeding is that black people who are mixing with these other groups of people are relinquishing their power. They're giving their power over to these other groups of people for them to become stronger, and we're becoming weaker. The last thing that I will say, and I can't emphasize this enough, when you know that this is where you belong and they belong to you, the sense of belonging is a very powerful feeling. This is where you belong. This is where your greatest strength, and this is where you can make your greatest contribution. You are needed in the black race. Black women need black men. Everybody's so proud now, nobody wants to admit that. But black women need black men. And we definitely need each other to build and become what we are capable of becoming as a race and as a tribe. Think on these things and let me know what you think. Have a great day.